Every day, we see the darker side of the world around us. We witness how people can hurt others in ways that are hard to understand. It's a sad part of life, but it's something we can't ignore. As someone who dives into the world of crime, I'm here to share the most shocking stories and try to understand what drives people to do such things. I'm Michael, and today, I've got another unreal true crime story for you. It was just past 3 a.m. in Gambier, Ohio, and the last few employees of Pirates Cove were locking up for the night. Among them was 20-year-old Emily Murray, a college student with big dreams and a kind heart. That shift was supposed to be her last. She had decided to quit her job to focus on school and her future. As she walked out into the quiet night, her car was waiting just a few steps away. She had told her coworkers she was heading straight to her dorm to get some sleep. But something happened between the restaurant and her destination, something no one saw coming. By morning, Emily was nowhere to be found. Her bed was untouched, her books still on the shelf. She had missed class, hadn't called anyone, and worst of all, she skipped a close friend's birthday party, something she had been excited about for weeks. At first, people thought there had to be an explanation. Maybe she just needed space. But as the hours passed, worry turned into fear. Then, weeks later, investigators made a shocking discovery in an unexpected place. A clue that would change everything and reveal a horrifying truth about what really happened to Emily that night. Emily Murray was born on February 19th, 1980, in the quiet town of Sleepy Hollow, nestled in Westchester County, New York. The youngest of four siblings, she was raised in a privileged household alongside her two older brothers and a sister. Her childhood was filled with warmth, strong family ties, and a deep sense of belonging. When Emily was just 2 years old, her family moved to Ohio. Her father, a respected academic, had been offered a prestigious leadership role at a renowned scientific university, while her mother devoted herself to caring for their children and creating a nurturing home. The Murray children thrived under their parents' guidance, excelling in school and pursuing ambitious academic goals. Emily, in particular, displayed a strong passion for biology and medicine. With a brilliant mind and an unshakable work ethic, she consistently ranked at the top of her class. Despite her demanding studies, Emily found time to work part-time, often donating her earnings to charitable causes. Her upbringing was deeply rooted in faith, as her parents were devout Christians who instilled in their children the values of kindness and generosity. Emily embraced these teachings wholeheartedly. After finishing high school, she took a year off to travel with humanitarian organizations, assisting communities in New Zealand, Australia, Japan, and various parts of Europe. In 1998, she enrolled at Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio, moving into campus housing to fully immerse herself in the college experience. Friends and classmates admired Emily for her vibrant energy and infectious optimism. She was kind-hearted, approachable, and driven, yet she also had a deeply introspective side, often pouring her thoughts into a personal journal. By the year 2000, Emily was well into her junior year. In addition to her rigorous coursework, she actively participated in church-led volunteer work and took on evening shifts as a waitress at a local restaurant. Her schedule was packed, but she handled it all with remarkable grace. On the morning of November 3rd, 2000, Emily's dorm roommates noticed something unusual. Her bed was empty. While it wasn't uncommon for college students to stay out late, Emily was always considerate and would let her friends know if she had other plans. Initially, they assumed she had stayed late at work or gone straight to class. But when they saw that her textbooks and notes were still untouched on her shelf, a sense of unease crept in. Throughout the morning, her friends asked around, hoping someone had seen her. But as the hours passed, it became clear that no one had. Emily had failed to attend her classes and had missed an event she had been eagerly anticipating, a close friend's birthday party. She had even helped organize a surprise for the celebration, making her absence all the more alarming. With growing concern, Emily's friends reached out to her family. When her parents heard the news, they were immediately overwhelmed with fear. That very night, they drove to Gambier, Ohio, to assist in the search for their daughter. By morning, the entire Murray family, including Emily's older siblings, had arrived on campus, desperate for answers. Word of her disappearance spread rapidly across the college community. Students, faculty, and volunteers organized search efforts, scouring the town for any sign of Emily. It wasn't long before another unsettling discovery was made. Her dark green Subaru, a birthday gift from her father, was missing as well. The family's first course of action was to report Emily's disappearance to campus security. However, their concerns were met with indifference. Security personnel suggested she had likely gone off with a boyfriend and would return soon. But the Murrays knew better. Emily would never leave without informing someone. More than 24 hours had passed, and with campus authorities proving unhelpful, her family turned to local law enforcement. To their dismay, the police also downplayed the situation, speculating that Emily might have taken an impromptu trip. It wasn't until officers searched her dorm room and found her ID, bank cards, and other personal belongings untouched that they realized something was seriously wrong. As the investigation began, authorities focused on Emily's last known whereabouts. The last place she had been seen was the restaurant where she worked, Pirates Cove, a popular hangout for students due to its affordability and proximity to campus. That night, November 2000, was Emily's final shift at the restaurant. She had decided to quit her job due to her overwhelming schedule, hoping to lighten her workload. Balancing academics, volunteer work, and evening shifts had become too much, and she needed to prioritize her studies. Many of her friends had stopped by that evening to support her on her last shift. As the night wound down, Emily officially clocked out at 2 a.m., but she stayed an extra 30 minutes to help with closing duties. Her co-workers, Olivia, a fellow waitress, and David the bartender, were among the last people to see her. Together, they cleaned up the restaurant, finishing around 2:45 a.m. The final employee to leave was Gregory McKnight, a 24-year-old cook who locked up the restaurant at 3:15 a.m. By all accounts, Emily had been in good spirits that night, cheerful, friendly, and acting completely normal. She told her coworkers she was heading straight back to her dorm to get some sleep before her morning classes. There was no mention of any other plans, nothing out of the ordinary, just another late shift at work, another night in her usual routine. During the investigation, detectives combed through Emily's dorm room, searching for any clues that might explain her sudden disappearance. Among her belongings, they discovered a personal journal filled with deeply introspective entries. What they read was unsettling. Despite her outward optimism, Emily had been silently battling depression. She was known for her empathy, often absorbing the pain of others and struggling to shake the sorrow that came with it. Through her charitable work, she had seen firsthand the injustices and suffering in the world, and the weight of it all sometimes felt unbearable. She wrote about feeling overwhelmed, about moments of despair, about the exhaustion that came with caring so deeply. Though there was no mention of self-harm or any drastic plans, investigators couldn't dismiss the possibility that Emily had chosen to walk away from her life. This theory, however, was met with fierce resistance from her loved ones. Her family and friends insisted that Emily's faith was too strong for such an act. She was deeply religious, and her beliefs did not align with the idea of abandoning her future. In fact, her journal painted a different picture, one of ambition and hope. She had dreamed of a full life, envisioning a future with a husband, children, and a home filled with love. There was no indication that she was planning to disappear by choice. Yet, since Emily's car was missing along with her, authorities initially entertained the theory that she might have left on her own, seeking space to reflect. Between her recent breakup with her boyfriend and the stress of resigning from her job, perhaps she needed time away. The natural starting point for the investigation was Emily's ex-boyfriend, Adam. Their relationship had lasted over a year and was marked by periods of both affection and turbulence, with multiple breakups and reconciliations. But this time, Emily had ended things for good. Adam had accepted the breakup, and according to their last conversation, it had been amicable. However, detectives still needed to consider whether he had struggled to move on. When questioned, Adam was visibly distraught over Emily's disappearance. He was cooperative, providing a detailed account of his whereabouts that night. He and his roommate had stopped by the Pirates Cove but left around midnight, returning to their dorm. Their alibi was confirmed by other students who had seen them in their dorm room throughout the night. With no evidence linking him to Emily's disappearance, Adam was quickly ruled out as a suspect. With Adam eliminated, detectives turned their attention to Emily's workplace. It wasn't long before they uncovered an intriguing lead, a workplace connection that could have been more than just professional. A cook at the Pirates Cove revealed that the bartender, David, had been interested in Emily romantically, but she had never reciprocated his feelings. David had worked the same shift as Emily on the night she disappeared. Had he waited outside for her? Had he acted on unrequited feelings? David was called in for further questioning. He admitted to having once asked Emily out, but insisted that he had taken her rejection gracefully. He maintained that their interactions remained friendly and professional. His alibi was airtight. His father had picked him up from work that night, and they had immediately left town to attend his sister's wedding. The alibi checked out, and he was ruled out as a suspect. However, another name soon emerged, another cook at the restaurant, Dave Yoakum. Yoakum was known for his awkward and often abrasive interactions with women. Co-workers described him as socially inept, easily angered, and prone to making crude remarks when rejected. Several waitresses had experienced his unwelcome advances, and Emily was no exception. What made Yoakum even more suspicious was the timing of his sudden departure from the restaurant. Just 4 days after Emily's disappearance, he was fired following a heated argument at work. Detectives wasted no time tracking Yoakum down. When questioned, he expressed shock at being considered a suspect. He readily provided an alibi. On the night Emily disappeared, he had attended a concert in a nearby city. Multiple friends confirmed his story, and ticket receipts corroborated his claim. With Yoakum cleared, the case hit another dead end. As weeks passed with no new leads, hope began to wane. Then, an unexpected piece of information surfaced. 2 months before Emily vanished, on October 1st, 2000, a minor car accident occurred on the outskirts of Harrison, a small town in Ohio. A man named Ronaldo Hopkins had been driving home when an old Buick swerved into his lane, causing a collision. Hopkins got out to check the damage and noticed something unusual. The trunk of the other driver's car had popped open from the impact, revealing a firearm inside. Alarmed, Hopkins called the police. The driver was fined and the weapon was confiscated, but authorities allowed him to leave. At the time, this incident seemed like nothing more than a routine accident. But on December 9, 2000, more than a month after Emily's disappearance, that same driver was charged with theft. When officers were sent to his residence, a trailer in a remote, desolate part of town, they stumbled upon something unexpected. Parked behind the trailer was a dark green Subaru. When they ran the plates, they confirmed the shocking truth: the vehicle belonged to Emily Murray. The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation. Whoever lived in that trailer was now the prime suspect. Authorities moved quickly, ready to uncover the truth about what had really happened to Emily Murray. As investigators dug deeper into Emily Murray's disappearance, all evidence led them to one chilling conclusion: the man responsible had been in plain sight all along. The suspect was none other than Gregory McKnight, the cook from Pirates Cove, who had subtly diverted attention away from himself by pointing fingers at his co-workers. Detectives wasted no time securing a warrant for his trailer. When officers arrived at the remote property, they found the door lock broken. Stepping inside, they were immediately hit with an overwhelming stench, the unmistakable smell of decomposition. The source was soon discovered. At the back of the trailer, wrapped in a rug, lay the remains of a young woman. Though there was little doubt it was Emily, forensic testing confirmed it. The cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head, fired at close range. Spent shell casings and blood spatter patterns indicated that the murder had taken place inside the trailer. With the discovery of Emily's body, the case shifted focus. It was no longer a question of whether something terrible had happened to her. It was now about bringing the person responsible to justice. Later that same day, Gregory McKnight was arrested. Interestingly, his initial charges had nothing to do with Emily's murder. He was taken into custody for his alleged involvement in an armed robbery. However, once confronted with the evidence found in his trailer, McKnight refused to speak. He declined to answer any questions and immediately demanded a lawyer. At the time, investigators still lacked direct proof tying him to Emily's murder, but with her remains found inside his property, they knew they had their suspect. As the investigation continued, detectives turned their attention to McKnight's surroundings. His trailer was isolated, set apart from the rest of the trailer park. The property itself was a mess, cluttered with garbage, rusted-out vehicles, and signs of neglect. During a thorough search of the area, officers noticed something odd: a small, overgrown well covered by a rusted metal sheet weighed down by fallen branches. The moment they removed the cover, they knew they had found something significant. The well was drained, and at the bottom, investigators uncovered human remains. The skeletal structure suggested the victim was male. Scattered bone fragments were also found nearby. Forensic testing quickly linked the remains to an unsolved missing persons case. 6 months earlier, a 20-year-old college student named Gregory Julius had vanished without a trace. Julius had last been seen with none other than Gregory McKnight. Julius's girlfriend had reported him missing after he failed to return home from a party. According to her, Julius had told her he was going to the gathering with McKnight. When questioned at the time, McKnight claimed the two had argued at the party and that Julius had left with other people. Since there was no physical evidence connecting him to the disappearance, the case went cold. But now, Julius's girlfriend was called in to identify key pieces of evidence found in the well: tattered clothing and personal items that had once belonged to him. A forensic examination of his bones revealed deep, saw-like cuts. indicating that his body had been dismembered with crude tools. Further investigation revealed another disturbing fact. Shortly after Julius went missing, McKnight had illegally sold his car. The vehicle had been hastily repainted and the license plates replaced in an attempt to conceal its identity. When police recovered it, forensic analysis revealed traces of Julius's blood in the trunk, suggesting his body had been transported inside. Inside McKnight's trailer, authorities found an axe, a shovel, and other tools, all bearing forensic evidence linking them to Julius's murder. But who was Gregory McKnight? He was born on November 12, 1976, in a struggling neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio. Raised in a household with little parental supervision, he turned to crime at a young age. By the time he was 14, he had already been caught stealing. At 15, he was involved in a botched robbery that ended in a fatality. Due to his age, McKnight was sentenced to only 6 years in a juvenile detention center. He was released in 1997 and attempted to rebuild his life. He married a woman named Catherine, and together they had 2 children. At one point, McKnight had saved enough money to purchase a trailer, but before his family could move in, he had already begun using it for far more sinister purposes. In May 2000, McKnight murdered Julius, disposing of his body in the well behind his trailer. 6 months later, he killed Emily Murray, leaving her remains to decompose inside the trailer itself. During the investigation, McKnight's wife, Catherine, admitted she had long suspected something was off. He would frequently visit the trailer alone, refusing to let her come near it. She had assumed he was using it as a hideout or meeting place for criminal activity, but she had never imagined the horrific truth. Despite the overwhelming amount of evidence against McKnight, much of it was circumstantial when it came to Julius's murder. Since investigators couldn't determine the exact location where Julius was killed, prosecutors were unable to seek the death penalty for that case. Emily's case, however, was more straightforward. Her remains had been found inside McKnight's trailer, and all evidence pointed to the crime occurring there. Yet one question remained unanswered. Why? Unlike many violent crimes, there was no clear motive. Emily had not been robbed or assaulted, and her car had been left abandoned behind the trailer. Even co-workers who had worked alongside McKnight testified that he had always treated Emily with respect. Prosecutors theorized that McKnight had lured Emily into a trap, possibly playing on her kindness and asking for help. Once inside the trailer, something triggered his violent outburst. Perhaps he had harbored feelings for her, and after being rejected, his rage spiraled out of control. Throughout the trial, McKnight remained silent, refusing to explain his actions. At one point, his defense team attempted to paint Emily as a deeply troubled individual who had been struggling with depression, arguing that McKnight had only assisted her in ending her life. This claim was met with outrage from Emily's loved ones and was ultimately dismissed by the court. In 2002, Gregory McKnight was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with charges of kidnapping and armed robbery. He was sentenced to death. For years, McKnight sat on death row, filing appeals in an attempt to overturn his sentence. In 2015, he made an unexpected request. He asked for his execution to be carried out as soon as possible, stating that he preferred death over life in prison. However, not long after, he changed his mind and resumed his legal battles. In 2020, McKnight filed a complaint alleging racial discrimination during his trial, claiming that the all-white jury had been biased against him. His case was reviewed, but his conviction and sentence remained unchanged. Today, Gregory McKnight remains on death row, awaiting the final chapter in his long and brutal legacy.
Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.